to this discussion for quite some time with Connie Inukai, who bills herself as the grandmapreneur. And I have to say, this is combining two things that I truly love. Older adults and talking about aging and how to have purpose as we grow older, and entrepreneurship. These are two things that I personally am passionate about. But let's meet Connie and learn a little bit more about what she's doing and how she can inspire us. Connie, I'm thrilled to have you here today because I understand you were a little bit nervous about even just getting on this discussion because you just returned from a trip from Peru and your computer wasn't working.
Right, right. I almost called up and canceled this whole thing because I had no idea my computer wasn't turning on.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and we're thrilled to have you today, and with a discussion. So I know we're going to dive into your background a little bit, but give us a little overview. Like, tell us a little bit about your background, and what and when did you kind of dive into this entrepreneurship? Is this something that you've been doing your whole life, or did you literally suddenly stumble into this at later in life?
This is something that I stumbled into. I made myself retire because I had so many burning desires to be an entrepreneur. So I retired from 40 plus years of teaching at the University of Maryland. And I retired so I could become first an inventor and later on another entrepreneur.
Wow. Now, okay, and when I hear inventor, I get really excited because, hey, folks, as entrepreneurs out there, there's, starting businesses and services, and then there's inventing something and getting a patent and getting that manufactured, a whole different ball of wax. But Connie, what was you had mentioned you were in education. What was your actual profession?
I taught technical writing to engineers and computer scientists,
Okay.
how to write reports. And it was a dreaded subject that nobody wanted to take, but they were required. So my whole class was filled with graduating seniors. It was their last chance to take the course. So I would say to them, how many of you are graduating seniors? And all of them would raise their hand. And they said, you can't put it off any longer. And, they actually loved taking the course because they were afraid of it, but they loved taking the course.
Okay.
And I
Wow.
love teaching them.
Okay, I dropped your website into chat, and I'm gonna share it real quick. But it's the Grandmapreneur, and am I pronouncing that the way that you like it to be
Yeah,
pronounced?
grandmapreneur.
Grandmapreneur. And but let's kind of dive into I want to dive in a little bit more to your background, but as you can see, folks, here's the grandmapreneur here, and I guess it looks like you've written a book. It says, do you want to be a second act entrepreneur? My book might be just the answer. I'll show you how it's never too late to start your dream business. You've also got a TED Talk, but let's tell us. Let's go through the journey. It's so you retire. You've got all these ideas. What was that first business that you started?
Well, let me tell you, I had my idea to become an inventor while I was actually working. And teaching technical writing, I had my students do assignments that would help them get an incredible job. And my first assignment was to find that incredible job that they wanted to do, maybe in 20 years. And I gave them assignments to help them get that job. One of the assignments that they had to do was write an instruction manual, because most people who are engineers have to do that. So as they were writing an instruction manual, I had this idea for my invention. And so right alongside them, I wrote an instruction manual for my invention. And then I asked them to write a brochure for that company that they wanted to work for. So I actually wrote a brochure for my future company. And finally, after giving them so many assignments, I thought I gotta quit because I have all my plans set up. And so I retired with everything ready to go. And one of the reasons I retired was because they were so happy because they were going to get a job that was incredible, but their job was going to end up paying them more than twice my salary with 40 years of teaching and a master's degree. So I thought, this is kind of really nice for them, but what about me? So that's why I retired. I decided to, instead of just inspiring my students, I would start inspiring myself.
I love it.
And
And I
that's what
think
I did.
that's a testament to all teachers and educators out there, and congrats to you for taking that first step. And I think that's the thing about entrepreneurship. Yeah, I know that you talk to a lot of folks that are thinking about this. That first step can be very difficult, but what was that first step? What was that first business that you started
Well,
out
especially
of?
I became an inventor. I had no idea how to become an inventor, but I'm not afraid to learn.
Okay.
I'm always curious and nothing's going to hold me back because that's why I say, passion has no expiration date. If somebody can do it, I can do it.
Okay.
So I looked up how to invent something. And I invented actually a little device. I tried to do it for people my age because everybody has devices and gadgets for young people, for babies, for teenagers, for everybody, but not so many people have things for older people. So I noticed that when I went out to a restaurant, we all had to take out reading glasses because we couldn't read the menu because the print was too small and the restaurant was too dark, so we had to go look for reading glasses and candles to see. So my invention was a little handheld device, fits in your pocket or your purse, and it's got a light on the back, and it can also add a tip and split the bill in 3 seconds. So I invented that product, knew nothing about it.
Wow. Okay. And that's still out there. You're still selling that. That's called tip and split, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Here,
And I wrote,
the website.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I wrote my first book um, about that because I was a writing teacher. So my first book that I wrote was called How I Got My Product on QVC, The Today Show, The View, and more in my retirement. This is like at age 70, okay? Over 70. And I got it on all those shows and I sold over 20,000 units of
Wow.
tip and split.
Now,
And I was so
what year,
excited.
what year, congrats. What year was this? When did you retire?
Um, that was about 2019.
Okay, great, great. Wow. Okay. So
Uh,
now you're out there, you got this product that you created, it's selling on QVC, you write a book, you're sharing other folks. The when did you coin this wonderful term, the grandmapreneur? And I'm assuming you are.
let me tell,
Okay, go ahead.
let me just say one more thing about the book that I wrote. The reason I wrote my book is because visibility is so important when you're an entrepreneur or an inventor. And I was hiring public relations firms to help me get visibility. And I was paying them a lot of money and they got me nothing. So I called up QVC. I called up The View. I called up the Today Show and I got my product on there for no money. So that's why I wrote my book, to help other entrepreneurs get their own free publicity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So also because I'm an inventor and I went through the patent process, I know all about trademarks. So I trademarked the term grandmapreneur. Okay.
I love it. It's very creative, and I'm assuming that you are legitimately a grandmother. How many grandchildren do you have?
I have seven now.
Seven.
And my latest one just turned one on Saturday, and he lives in Lima, Peru. So I flew
That
to Lima, Peru to go to his birthday party.
oh,
And I was so excited because it's a big thing to have a 1-year-old birthday in Peru, and everybody there was Spanish, and I was there to represent my son's side of the family. So I was so happy to be there. And I came home last night, by the way, at around 11
oh
o'clock at
no, yeah,
night.
you told me. You said and your computer didn't work. So
Right.
I'm delighted that you're
It's
here. I'm delighted that you got on. This is exciting. Okay, so is so you from an entrepreneur perspective, you invented tip and split. You sold this thing. You wrote a book. What are, do you have any other businesses or any things that you're involved with? And then what I'd love to do is get some of your tips for folks that are out there that or friends of folks or loved ones of folks that you've got a loved one who maybe either thinks that, oh, I can't start a business at this age, or like Connie's tips on what can get people to give it a shot. But I think I'm on your website. It looks like you've got another business called Write Your Selfie.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
that's my current business. And what I do want to tell people is okay, so I keep on reverting back because this is important to me. I gave a TEDx talk because when people talk about retirement, everybody comes after you about retirement planning, and it's all about your money. Do you have enough money to retire? But nobody talks about your dreams in retirement, like your retirement lifestyle. And that's what I want to talk about. So, of course we need money to retire, but I want to talk about a little bit more. When we're retired, that's not the end of our life. And so I talk about having the lifestyle that you can dream on after you're getting older. And it has to do with much more than money. It has to do with passion and fulfillment. And so I actually wrote an article for Entrepreneur Magazine called 6 Reasons to Pursue Entrepreneurship in Your Retirement. And the main reasons are it keeps you mentally active. It keeps you physically active. It lets you pursue a passion. And I think there are 3 more. It lets you give back to the community. It lets you do all these things. And when I wrote that, that was like the basis for my TEDx talk because I wanted to share that with other people, that there are no real rules for retirement. We get to make our own rules. Okay. Retirement is something that people thought of differently in the olden days. And now I'm not your typical retiree. I'm actually 76 years old and still starting a new business. And why am I doing it? Because I don't think dementia has a chance of getting in my brain because I'm so active. So I'm doing what I can do for the fun of it and also, to keep my lifestyle going. So my tip is to encourage other people to start a business when they're retired, because there's only so much Netflix you can watch.
I love it.
And,
And here I found that article that you wrote here on Entrepreneur, and the 6 reasons are: stay active, keep mentally alert, pursue a passion, supplement your pension or income, stay social, and give back to the community. And another thing for people to remember is that you know, a nonprofit or a community service initiative that doesn't exist is a business. Like you don't need to be inventing the next, electric automobile or things like that. It could be, serving the underserved in your community. But
Exactly.
I like where you're going with this, Connie, and I think it's wonderful. Okay, well, let's spotlight your uh write your selfie. I'm curious about this business. And then I see that actually I bumped into one of my friends the other day, Lynn Strang, who's actually written a book on entrepreneurship at later ages and on purpose in life. And I'd love to have Lynn on here shortly to kind of riff on some of the things that you're saying and see if it's in alignment with some of the things that she's discovered in writing her books. But Connie, let's talk about this write your selfie because I've checked out your website and it's actually in alignment with some of the things that we talk about on our platform in terms of like leaving a legacy and things like that. But tell us, what was the inspiration for this business and how'd you go about starting this?
Okay, so this one, it was very interesting because I actually got my idea when oh, what's the guy who the basketball player Kobe Bryant, when he died in a helicopter accident with his daughter. And I was thinking, how sad it is. And he had younger children. And I thought, everybody's going to know all about him because he's all over the social media, because he had a presence. But who's going to know about the little person like me? I'm not a celebrity, so nobody's going to know about me unless I tell them. So I want to say that memoirs are not just for famous people, but for anybody. And so I found a very good way to write my life story. And it's not the typical way because I don't do things that are typical. My book, actually, you can see there, my daughter is showing my book. I have 7 grandchildren. And after I'm gone, I want them to know my story. So I just last week helped somebody write his life story, and actually for his wife who had just passed away. And he had given me about 200 pages of words that nobody's going to read.
Mhm.
So I converted it all into pictures. And what I did with mine is I have it based on ancestry and pictures. For example, this is one of my pictures is a picture of my grandparents. I don't think anyone could see that, but
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah, no, now we can all see. That's
uh,
great.
it's okay. It's a picture of my grandparents, and I found this picture, and I didn't even know the story behind it, but I found out through one of my cousins as I was writing my book, and it says, Grandma Ella and Grandpa Arthur moved to the United States from Poland. They missed the ship over to the United States in 1912 because Ella was pregnant and had morning sickness. The ship they missed was the Titanic. Okay, so what do you think my grandkids think about that? Everybody loves the story of the Titanic.
Hmm.
And so I help people find their Titanic moments and put them all in a book. Another great, I do it and I make these captions meaningful. I have another picture. This is one of my favorites. It's of my family on a boat. We grew up in Cleveland and we had a boat, and we called the boat Dr. Scackle. And that's because my parents were named David and Rebecca. That's Doctor. And then Sharon, Connie, Arthur, Chucky, Louie, SCACL, Dr. Scackle. And when they had one more child, the 6th child, we all took a vote and called him Eddie so we could keep the name of our boat. So it was always Dr. Scackle. And I tell everybody the story of that boat. And we used to go fishing, and there were so many of us, like 6 kids and 2 adults, and we would come back with 100 fish. And one time, one of the fish didn't die, so we put it in the bathtub and it lived for a few days. And for 20 years, nobody took a bath in that bathtub.
Wow.
So I share these stories that my grandkids love to hear. And so my whole book is based on stories. So that's what I do. I help people find their stories to share in a book.
And just like starting a business is hard and people they feel alone and it's difficult. um Having somebody like you that can help them uncover what those moments are and do the story it, and help them create their own story is great. I love that business that you're in because it's really in alignment with two things that we talk a lot about on here is finding purpose and what to do with our stuff and how to basically pass on a legacy. And it's something that I think a lot of us get nervous about doing because death and dying is something that we all, even though it's inevitable for all of us, it's sort of like, oh gosh, if I'm writing my life story, that means that I'm gonna die. Well, you are gonna die, and the important thing is that there's something that to pass on to those future generations. So
Exactly.
congrats. This is really, really cool, Bonnie. I mean, Connie, I'm sorry. Now, folks, I told you, I got a friend in the audience who's written a couple of books on these two topics that Connie is talking about. And I've just opened up her mic. Lynn, can can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, Lynn. I know this was last minute, but I reached out to her yesterday, and I was just like, "You're never gonna believe this. I've got the Grandmapreneur on, and I completely didn't even think about the fact that I've got this good friend that has written on these topics, and she's got a brand new book that's out on a simple way to find life purpose, which I want to spotlight. But Lynn, number one, you've written this book, Late Blooming Entrepreneurs. What do you think of Connie's story, and how is that in alignment with some of the folks that you talked to when you wrote your book?
Oh, well, absolutely is in alignment. Connie, it's so nice to meet you. I remember reading a story about your invention in the Beacon newspapers a few years back, and I logged it because it was a great example of people starting a business and creating and inventing in a second half endeavor. So it was really nice to read about what you're doing. And it's nice to meet you, meet the inventor behind all that. And yes, I think it is in alignment. I love Connie's message about not being afraid to learn, about how passion has no expiration date. I think that absolutely is the case. And I would add on to what she said that in many respects, I think 40s, 50s, 60s, there's no better time to start a business because when you're an older entrepreneur, you bring certain advantages to the table. You have more resilience. You've seen life's ups and downs, and you know when things aren't going quite the way that you hope, that the sun is going to come out again eventually.
Exactly.
You have patience, you have perspective, you have more connections. Often you have more financial resources, which is important. If you're thinking about entrepreneurship, you have a little bit more solid financial position. And again, those are all benefits and strengths that come from starting a business later in life. And for those reasons and more, I think it's a great time if you are thinking about going down that road.
Man, I love it. Now let's. Since I've got both of you on, and you've both studied and experienced entrepreneurship. Let's talk about some of the scary things about entrepreneur. I mean, there's great benefits, and trust me, I'm living and breathing. But a lot of times, you know, especially we're based in the DC area where you've got a lot of folks that they've worked their whole career in government or in a job where there was minimal risk. Connie and Lynn, how do you help people overcome, or how do people overcome, you know, the risk of starting a business?
Okay, I'm going to address that one because being a grandma, I learned the best lesson ever. I was watching SpongeBob, SpongeBob SquarePants with my daughter Victoria, my granddaughter Victoria, who's 8. And they had a show and they talked about entrepreneurship. So my eyes lit up. And SpongeBob and his friend, I think his name is Patrick, were reading about making money, and they decided to become entrepreneurs. And they decided a good thing to do was to sell candy bars. So they went to all the neighboring houses and tried to sell their candy bars. And then they hit this one house, and the guy said, you know, in order to sell those candy bars, you really need to have a nice package to put them in. So the guy sold them some really fancy packaging. So then they went back and he says, now you need another kind of package to put that package in. And they found out after all of this that they were spending so much more money buying things from other providers than actually selling their stuff. And I learned from that. That's what entrepreneurs get tricked into doing, buying other people's services that don't really help them, but they find these people who prey on them.
Yeah, well, your example, Connie, about how you worked with, was it the publicist? You had a publicist that was going to solve all your publicity problems and get you on the Today Show, and you found that you had that skill set. That's a great example, and that can also be some very frustrating if you have a couple of those missteps, and that's what I'm sort of talking about, risk. It's getting back up on the horse and going again.
Right.
Lynn, any insights on the entrepreneurs you profiled and how they manage the risk of starting their businesses?
Well, you know, risk taking is a part of entrepreneurship, including older entrepreneurship. And I think that people that are older tend to be a little bit more risk adverse because, you know, they want to protect their financial assets and for other reasons. But I do think that there are ways to address that. I would suggest, and one of the best ways is you do need to do your homework. You do need to do some research on your business idea and look at things that so you can base decisions on facts and information rather than whims. So that would be one thing. And I also think it's important if you're thinking about doing this, part of that research that you want to do is on yourself. Get to know yourself better and to really understand what your strengths and weaknesses are so that if you do have some weaknesses that could threaten that business idea, you can take steps at the beginning to address them. Maybe one of those steps is that you get a partner, a business partner who is good at the things that you are not so good at doing. Or maybe you get some mentoring or you find resources that will allow you to fill that gap. So I do think that research, and part of that research should be researching yourself, and knowing yourself will help address some of those risks that come with doing this type of activity.
Great words of wisdom from both of you all. And as somebody, you know, I started my first business in my 20s. Holy cow, I got to know myself and my threshold for risk and tolerance and how hard I could work very quickly. That's one. Self-discovery is one thing that running a business will automatically it's built into it.
And Steve,
Okay.
if I could just add one
Yeah.
thing to, I think something else that people could do, you know, talk about the pros and cons of writing a business plan. And I know some people like recoil from that idea because they don't want to spend like weeks and months and doing that. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. I think you can, there's there's a book out there that talks about how to write a one-page business plan. And just putting yourself through that critical thinking process will help you troubleshoot a lot of things up front, I think. And
Oh,
from my
I'm glad you brought that up. And out of curiosity, Connie, you sort of, your first business plan, you did that with your students, I believe, is what you were sharing with us.
Mhm. Well, I'll tell you about business plans and mentoring. Lynn suggested the best thing I ever did was I joined SCORE. Are you familiar with SCORE?
Yep. And in fact, actually, SCORE is a program through SBA, Small Business Administration. I'm going to drop in a link on there, actually on the SBA website for a lean business plan. A lean business plan is a great, very easy to do document on creating a business plan. But you joined the SCORE program, Connie.
Yeah, I'm not a SCORE volunteer, but I have a SCORE mentor. And
Oh.
he's the best thing that ever happened to me. And the reason I say that is because SCORE mentors do it for free, which means if you get some kind of coach or something from another from an area and you pay them, they're just doing it for the money. These SCORE mentors do it for their passion. They do it to help you.
And Lynn, did any of the entrepreneurs that I'm dropping the SCORE website into the chat there, but Lynn, out of curiosity, is SCORE something that some of the entrepreneurs you've talked to have used?
Yes, absolutely. I too am a big proponent of SCORE. I think it's a great resource and organization. As Connie mentioned, they give free mentoring. You can go on to SCORE's website and get templates for business plans, and they are an excellent wealth of resource for a lot of things related to entrepreneurship. And actually, another resource to consider, there's an organization, it's called BoomerWorks. I think I got that right.
Okay, I'm pulling up their website here. Yeah, self-employment.
Yeah, BoomerWorks.
Yeah.
And BoomerWorks has guest speakers and seminars that they offer. I don't know, I'm not quite sure what the frequency is, but I have sat in on some of those sessions, and they too are quite educational. And their sessions cover everything from use of social media in businesses to legal concerns to a lot of other specific aspects of business ownership that are important and useful for people starting a business later in life.
Yeah, this is great. I had no idea about that resource, and so thanks for sharing that. I dropped that into chat as well. That's a really good one, and being able to connect with like-minded folks that might be in a similar situation to you, as opposed to, the venture capital startups that we're all reading about in the newspaper every day. Well, let's to kind of wrap things up. Let's kind of close with something that's really important, and it's also Connie has brought it up, and Lynn, it's the title of your newest book, and that is Living with Purpose. Connie, this was the first thing that you brought up when you talked about the benefit of being an entrepreneur. And Lynn, I can see here on your website, which I'm sharing, you've got a brand new book, a simple way to find life purpose. I'd love to have you back on to talk about the book at length, but can you kind of give us sort of the Cliff Notes version that we should be thinking about in terms of maintaining a purposeful life, no matter what our age is?
this was actually a pandemic-driven project that I did when putting together this book, and appropriately so, because I think it came at a time when many people, since we were locked down at home, not able to go out and not able to socialize, began to contemplate, am I doing what I really like doing? And is my current job really the one that I want to be doing for the next few years? So that was sort of the whole impetus behind what got me writing about this project, is that it fell during that time, but it really helps people walk through the process of figuring out what it is that they love, what it is that they like, what they can live with, and what they can loathe, what they loathe. And then with that self-information, doing some mixing and matching using what I call a principle called the power of three, which you might be familiar with that through public speaking. But the power of three is like you pick three components from each of your four quadrants and mix and match them together to find possible paths forward. And I don't know, there's something about, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know if there's a formal explanation for this, but there's something about getting that information, those four quadrants right in front of you, and pairing them up in threes that allows new ideas and paths to come forward. At least it was for me when I put myself through this process. And I thought, well, perhaps I can help others that might be struggling with answering this question if I share this little tool that I put together for myself. So that's quickly how it came about.
Wow.
And as I said, it's certainly connected to the recent events of last year, where people have been spending more time reflecting upon, am I spending the time that I have here on what it is that I really want to do? Because I think with business ownership, ideally you want to be doing not only something that you're good at doing and that provides value to your end user, but it's something that you enjoy doing. And part of what I hope to help people figure out in this latest book is, what is it not only that I'm good at doing, but what do I like to do?
Wow. Well, this is I'm so delighted that I've got both of you here because this having like tools like Lynn's book and Connie's book and this discussion, for anybody that might be nervous or risk averse, you've got some tools that can help you get started. And Connie, let me kind of throw it back to you, because um, you've described you've told us your life story, and it's very inspiring to me. Like that, you basically, you quit your job, you went down this path, and how, like right now in your life, how do you define your purpose? Like give us a glimpse at, what gets you up in the morning.
That's such an interesting question. And by the way, I'm so happy to be involved with positive aging, because you have so many opportunities for people to explore other positive aging aspects of life. What gets me up in the morning is, it's never too late to find something new. And I'm constantly looking around. I'm always curious. And, I'm so lucky to have grandchildren. And I have to tell you, my granddaughter is worried about me getting older. And I said, well, what advice do you give me, Victoria? And she says, don't blow out the candles. And I thought that's the best advice I ever heard. Like just keep it low content, So I just like everything. I'm not giving up trying new things. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try a new thing with Write Your Selfie that I'm just getting started on. So I'm always up for something new, because when you find something you love, you try and expand it and reach more people.
And you know, this is something that we talk a lot about on this platform. And we've never had a discussion on entrepreneurship. I mean, most of the time our discussions are on, you know, memory care and how to care for a loved one, or more sort of crisis-oriented topics on aging. But what I like about this is that it's encouraging people to try new things, and today we're talking about businesses, but really what the two of you are talking about is knowing yourself and finding more purpose and joy. One of the interesting things, our number one topic for discussion on this platform is solo aging, and there's many people out there that identify or sort of see them in sort of a solo aging situation. And usually during our solo aging topics, making new friends is often the rabbit hole we go down. But what's really interesting to me is how similar somebody making new friends for the first time in 40 years is so similar to starting a new business. Is that, you know, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to have a plan. You got to know yourself and know who do you want to be friends with, you know? And that's radically different now at our being older than it was when we were younger, but it can be a lot better and more meaningful. So folks, I know there's some folks listening to this that may be like, you know, you're just listening in and you're thinking about this as, oh, I'm not going to start a business. But if you just think about this more as trying new things, you may trip over a business idea when you're trying new things. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
You know, I just met 4 new friends last night. I was taking a shuttle bus home from the airport, and we had a 1-hour ride home from a shuttle bus, and there were 4 of us talking together. And one guy is a master chess player, and he started talking to me because I was a writing teacher and he wanted some help writing his book. And then we all started talking, and I believe they're all going to be watching this interview today. And it's because and one of the guys, I told him I'm talking about starting a business at your old age, and he's like young, like in his 30s, and he says it's not just for old people, it's for people of any age. So I have to reiterate his comments.
No, and I'm glad you said that. I mean, even though we call this positive aging and this, that, and the other, it's really what we need to live in. We need to live in a world with no ageism, and just like your granddaughter said, it's sort of like the number of candles really is not relevant. So you can blow them out or not. So this has been a great discussion. Connie, I thank you for your time, and Lynn, thanks for jumping in at the last minute and adding to this conversation. I will reach out to you, and I really will look forward to having a discussion where we dive deeper on discovering our purpose with the technique that you crafted.
Yeah, that sounds great. I look forward to that.
All right, folks. Well, it's Thursday. Have a great weekend. I'll get this recording up ASAP, and Connie, keep us posted on everything you're doing. It's so exciting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.